Welcome back to Cinematic. This week, I'm Ryan, and we are raiding the VHS shelf again this week, which is a term I've not coined, that's impossible, but use to refer to kind of that shelf that many from my generation walked by at the Blockbuster or Hollywood Video back in the day. But also, I kind of use it to refer to movies that were not theatrically released and maybe had a smaller budget, but a big heart, I think, oftentimes. And this fits, although I didn't know what I was going to do with it necessarily. I knew it was a Cynthia Rothrock movie. Actually, before that, I think I knew it was a Riff Tracks movie is what it was. So when the two happily came together, I was like, oh, that's one I'm going to watch. But had no idea about the rabbit hole I would find. So check this out. It has to do with Godfrey Ho, Benny Ho, Ho Chi Mao, Charles Lee, Ed Wu, Stanley Chan, Ho Fong, Ho Jian Kung, God Ho Young, and at least 31 other people that are the same guy. This is all the same guy. I'm talking about Godfrey Ho, the director. Those were all different pseudonyms that he used to direct films, to the point where he doesn't know how many movies he made exactly. It seems like the last time somebody tried, they got up somewhere around 100 movies that he directed. This guy is more gorilla than Guevara. Check this out. He started as an assistant to Chang Che, kicked around Shaw Brothers long enough to also work with John Woo, but by the 80s was off on his own, much like John Woo. But he developed a much more different style, let's say, something, I don't know if he called it this back then or when computers came around, they were like, oh, this fits. But it was the cut and paste technique where he'd shoot a bunch of his own stuff on a micro budget, quote unquote, and then add in stuff from other Asian movies and then just dub the whole thing over and bingo, brand new movie. And if you're like, well, what about the music? Not a problem. Just go take some from Star Trek, Star Wars, Miami Vice, fair few Japanese TV shows, it turns out. Sky's the limit, honestly. Want to go make a sequel to somebody else's movie? Not a problem. He did that too, Godfrey Ho. And then the Wikipedia says that he also did some quote unquote more mainstream movies like Honor and Glory, which if you've seen, okay, let me show you a just random clip. This came out of thin air from Honor and Glory. Here you go.
Just because he's your father does not mean he's a good man.
It's quite a show.
Wait till you meet my sister. I'll see you later.
Okay.
That's the mainstream movie we're going to talk about this week. A movie that doesn't even itself have an entry on Wikipedia. So here goes. I'll make one. Cynthia Rothrock plays an FBI agent named Tracy Pride in Hong Kong, actually, at the start of the film, at least, which I do enjoy because her movies will sometimes feel like they run together already. So just the idea that she's playing the same character again, essentially, or was in Hong Kong and now she's on loan to the States or something like that, I like. But she's basically introduced at the same time as Robin Shou, who I didn't even know was in this and isn't in it that much, actually. But he plays, I think, a cop. He's called Dragon Lee, Inspector Dragon Lee, more than a couple times. So I'm going to say he's a cop. And I think he's also dating Cynthia Rothrock's character. I don't know. They are going to go on a date. The running joke between the two is that they're going out to dinner. But she does have to go back to the States because a nuclear trigger has been stolen by a Bulgarian general named Kovic, which we find out by some of the most stilted acting that has ever graced the screen. And I'm actually not punching down or up or whichever way even. I'm not trying to throw a punch at all. I just think this movie exists firmly, let's say, in the, hey, do you have a friend that wants to be in a movie type genre.
This cove is connected with Novigrad base.
And not in the, like, everybody was friends on set and had a great time, although I bet they were and they did. But no, I mean in the way that somebody asked their friend, hey, you want to be in a movie? And they, maybe not reluctantly, but a little bit doubtfully, were like, I guess, and then sat down and delivered a few lines and then quite possibly never got in front of a camera again. You know, one of those entries on IMDb that's like 1 or 2 profile pictures only, and the rest are just like default non-photo. Because it was a one-time deal for him. So how's that for lightning in a bottle? Lightning might be generous. How's that for a sunny Southern California afternoon in a bottle, is what this movie is. And I don't mean that to describe everyone. Actually, Donna Jason stars as Joyce Pride in this thing. She plays Rothrock's character's sister. And even though it is her straight up first movie, or first credited movie on IMDb, she essentially plays the lead. I think she has more screen time than anybody else, but also it's more her story than anybody else's, because she has the scoop on bad guy Jason Slade, played by John Miller, who is the evil CEO of the Bank of Business and Trade International, which is just outstanding. You know, there is an element to this movie that is intoxicating, is the only way I can think to put it. Maybe just to filmmakers or the filmmaker in me, in that, do you know how long it takes to come up with the names of things and have them not sound like it was hard to come up with them? The idea that you could just put a bank or a business or a car dealership, whatever it is, in your movie and call it bank, business, car dealership. Like, why are we overthinking it? Anyway, we all bring a little bit of ourselves to every movie. Jason Slade is also a violent man who threatens the board of directors, sends a couple guys out to kill them, actually. And they maybe reciprocate, I'm not sure. 2 other guys also try and kill Jason Slade, which I'm mentioning specifically because I want to call out the guy who plays his bodyguard, Chuck Jeffries. This is the instant in this film where I see somebody throw a kick and I'm like, oh, I found the martial artist. And sure enough, Chuck Jeffries had studied martial arts since he was 7 or 8 and went on to have a pretty successful career, I would say. Like, I'm not going to be able to tell you another movie that you recognize him from. Lots of Bartender and Thug Number 2 on his list of credits, but lots of stunt work, action, and fight choreography for movies like Blade, Spider-Man, The Wire, Game of Death, although not that Game of Death. I don't know why you would use that title again. The Equalizer, Jessica Jones. So by all accounts, successful. The guy skilled and found work for it, and you've probably seen it. But maybe the most surprising thing actually in this particular movie is that his role is not a throwaway, really, at all.
So you don't know everything, huh?
I mean, he is probably the most talented person on set, and I do mean that in terms of acting and martial arts. I think he turns in the best martial arts in the movie, actually, and it's not the majority of it by far. You know, his scenes are few and far between. But like I said, surprisingly, he gets his own arc in that, like, he grows a conscience halfway through, you know, playing the bodyguard to the bad guy. The bad guy kills somebody and he's like, I'm not in for this. And goes back to his gym, finds his old coach, and finds himself, really. I'm not joking. Like, if Godfrey Ho wanted to re-edit this and release it as something different, you could put him in the middle of the movie. Like, this could be his movie. In fact, here's a conspiracy theory for you, because the movie just goes and goes, really. Like, it's not great. Like, this, you shouldn't do this in your movie. But it keeps introducing characters. Okay, it might slow down. It's well past the halfway mark that it's still introducing new people. But when it does, it's like they're fully formed. Like, they have backstories, history with the other characters. It's a rich tapestry of sorts. Joyce's, Sifu's pupil, Mickey, is kind of this well-meaning little guy with a crush on Joyce. There's a pimp named Silk who knows about the nuclear trigger, so he tells Slade, but then right after calls the girl's dad, like Joyce and Tracy's dad, who Joyce has a strained relationship with, by the way. Turns out he's in the CIA and was running possibly some sort of sting on Slade, but they steal all of his money, so he's real upset and kidnaps the dad. Now I'm kind of starting to see why there is not a Wikipedia article on this movie. But some of what seems like kind of extra character work on some of these guys, I wonder if it's not a knock-on effect of this kind of cut and paste technique of his, which is probably without foundation, because to my knowledge, this particular movie was not cut and pasted into anything different. But was that why he filmed stuff like that? I wonder. I don't know. I haven't seen literally any of his other movies as far as I know. I guess I shouldn't rule out that somewhere down the line I have, and I'll find out about it later. But so the third act in this movie has some decent choreography, believe it or not. It's cut together real weird. But Robin Shaw gets some long takes, nothing near as impressive as Tiger Cage 2, where I can't stress this enough again. He is the real deal. But Chuck Jeffries also gets some really cinematic moves in there. Again, just looks good on camera. That guy has the skills and would be interesting in checking out more of what he's done in the martial arts field. I guess he's teaching. Godfrey Ho is teaching, supposedly, at the Hong Kong Film Academy at this moment nowadays. I'd like to think that his class would be mostly just use whatever, go rip a Star Trek off of the internet and put it back together, use the music. I don't know. I would really enjoy that. But as good as this movie looks, like exactly as good as Honor and Glory looks, no better or worse, it's a little bit in spite of an ending that really kind of peters off, in that the four heroes, Robin Shaw, Cynthia Rothrock, Donna Jason, and Chuck Jeffries, I think all kind of just capture Slade in a net. He's real mad about it, don't get me wrong, but that's like fade out or fade away, I guess the camera goes into while she reports on the ending, because remember, she's a reporter. It's funny, it's fine. I had a lot more fun with this than even I thought I was going to, the weirdo who watches riff tracks movies without the riff tracks on. But also the riff tracks is pretty darn good. It's almost like the movie pauses, like all good riff tracks movies do, so that they can get the riffs in, like the takes on this. It's like they didn't have an editing machine half the time. If it looked good in camera, then what the heck, just keep it. So it's fun, with or without the riff tracks, I'll say. So come back next week. What are we doing? Right, The Legend of Fong Sai-yuk, with any luck at all. That's going to be what I talk about next week. And then it's kind of up for grabs, but we'll worry about that when we get there. Thank you for watching, liking, subscribing, whatever you do. If you want to get to God tier, you can find me on Patreon and Ko-Fi, where you can throw a couple bucks in the tip jar. It really does help. And I have no qualms about putting your name up here with the best of them.